the fear monsters were adorable. I don't know if they're supposed to be adorable, but I just loved them. They were so cute. And like just from my experience, turning something in my head that's terrifying into something cute is really effective.
What fascinates me about what you say is that some people would assign hot fire to anxiety, and you assigned a cold metaphor. You know,
Yeah.
I feel that cold with the glacier and how we can learn from each other. So I have an anxiety fire and you have an anxiety glacier, and we go into virtual reality and it could be shocking. Like, what do you mean you're making anxiety into a glacier? How could you do? But that's how we learn from each other. Like
Right.
we surprise each other.
Instead of just having to intellectualize it or imagine that you know what it's like, if a therapist goes into the client's inner garden and then the client can show, okay, this is how big this fear is for me, that gives the therapist not just regular old intellectual empathy, but like a literal visceral experience of, oh, that's how big this feels.
One of the algorithms is called serenity sunflowers. Another algorithm is called sadness sunflowers. And they're both sunflowers in your garden. And the interesting thing is, if you have both, then do they look the same? Are they as tall? Are they as many and numerous in your garden? Do you nurture them in the same way? Do you tend to them the same way?
Instead of sitting there trying to argue or talk to or have a conversation with my despair, it's now outside of me in this environment, and I can work with it with that little bit of distance, which reduces the overwhelming power that it feels like emotions can have over us.
What's interesting to me about this word distance is now for the first time you can say, well, when you're externalizing, well, do you want it close right up in your face? Do you want it far away? How far away do you want it? How big do you want it? How small do you want it? Do you want it underground? Do you want it in the stars? Do you want it visible? Do you want it invisible? Do you want it partially visible? How much opacity? And then what's it connected to? So you may have a lot of love zymes and gratitines, but they may be connected also to your fear zymes and your angerites, etc. We have 10 trillion cells in our body. And in the last 200 years, psychologists have said they've assigned one word to describe the enormously complex set of sensations that are happening in our bodies in these 10 trillion cells. Like they'll say anxiety, depression. And we're saying, well, if you have 10 trillion cells, you should have far more ways of describing what's really happening in your body than one word. The garden is something that we have discovered 10, 12,000 years ago when we came off the savannah. We have always been gardeners. And now for the first time, we have the tools to become gardeners of the psyche.